So I was working with a client this past week, and we were talking about his relationship with his partner and some of the things that he was struggling with. And there was a tendency for him to essentially bully his partner, right? And he didn't recognize it. He didn't know why he was doing that. And the reason why this came up was because his partner told him, hey, look, you know, I love you. I want this relationship to work, but I feel like you are constantly putting me down. You are kind of diminishing my light a bit. You're making me feel insecure. And for him, this was a shock because he never really realized that he was doing this. And the reality of the situation is I see this quite often, particularly within the queer community, right? Where we have a tendency of minimizing our partner and we may not even realize it or recognize it. So I wanted to record this video so that we can talk about it, have an open discussion about minimizing our partner, why we do it, and how we can stop. And if this is something that you didn't even realize that you do, then this is the right video for you, right? We're going to have an open discussion about this. There's no judgments here. It's really just about learning and acquiring the tools and the resources necessary to be able to start to change that habit and that dynamic. So if we really start to unpack what it means to minimize somebody, right? When you're minimizing somebody, essentially what you're doing is that you are making them less than you. And it's ego driven, right? It's feeding our own ego. It's making us feel better about ourselves. It's positioning us it's putting us in a position of power and control. And it's not healthy. It's not something that we should be doing within a relationship. So where does this come from? Where does it stem, right? So as youth, we often grow up having to defend ourselves, which results in a level of wit and sarcasm that is common in the queer community, right? And I talk about this all the time in regards to masks, because I think masks is such an important conversation to have, particularly within in our community, because we lead sometimes with masks. We put on this identity that may not necessarily be who we are, but it's because we're trying to protect our inner child. We're trying to protect that kid that was bullied and made to feel less than and rejected and not accepted. So we create this persona, this individual that we ideally would like to be, but there's a disconnect, right? Because we're putting it on as a costume, we're putting it on as a mask, as opposed to fully embracing that identity and liquidating and eliminating that mask. So one of the common things that I see within the queer community is this level of sarcasm and wit and comedy, which is a beautiful thing. I'm not saying it's not. I love hanging out with my friends because at the end of the day, we have a good time, we laugh, and there's a lot of sarcasm and wit and dryness and dark humor and all of that stuff, which can be incredibly entertaining, but there's a time and a place. And it's not always necessary within our relationships. If you're having a serious conversation with your partner and you're trying to lighten the mood while utilizing sarcasm and utilizing that wit, essentially what you're doing is you are dismissing your partner. And when you dismiss your partner in that way, you are minimizing them. You are making them feel less than. You're not making them feel valid or as an equal in that moment. So when we allow ourselves to lead with that sarcasm and that wit, this translates into the relationship unintentionally, right? We mask frustration with sarcasm. And essentially what ends up happening is we bully our partner. And we are reliving a past and subconsciously taking control by becoming the offender. We are becoming that bully that we wanted to overcome, to beat, to gain acceptance from. And again, we don't always realize it. So how do you stop it? How do you stop minimizing your partner? How do you stop bullying your partner? Number one, recognize the pattern, right? If your partner has told you many times before, hey, I don't like when you do this, or this doesn't feel good, have you actually taken the time to stop and think, okay, why am I doing this? How many times do I do this? And when does it come up for me, right? Is it when you guys are having serious conversation? Is it when you're trying to resolve conflict? Is it when you're frustrated because your partner's not in the mood to have sex that night and you want to? What is the particular time that that happens? And have you clocked it? Have you recognized it? So if you are in an argument or a disagreement with your partner, take note of your reaction. Are you sarcastic? Do you deflect? Do you convert the situation into a joke, resulting in dismissing your partner? All of these things are really important to really take the time and recognize. A lot of what we do, a lot of what we say stems from past experiences, traumas, the history of our relationships. And the question for me becomes, how aware are you of those things? Are you familiar with it? And if you're not, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to have a healthy relationship and you want to shift the dynamic to one of peace and fulfillment and partnership, it's important to do the work. And this is part of that. Some of those questions that I've asked, have you ever asked yourself those questions before? Have you ever recognized that you are doing this and tried or put in an effort to stop it? And maybe you have, you just haven't had the right tools and the resources to do that. The second thing is communicate, right? Have effective communication with your partner. Instead of using sarcasm, express how you're feeling in a constructive way. Call out the elephant in the room, right? That's pretty much a great place to start. And I tell people all this time. I tell people this all the time. Call out the elephant in the room. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's how you call out the elephant. It's not necessarily the message itself. It's how you deliver the message. And if you are so used to being sarcastic and comedic and witty and funny, I want you to understand something. That's a beautiful quality, but it's also a defense mechanism. It's also a mask that you may be wearing in that particular moment because there is some kind of pain, fear that you are hiding. So recognizing that and then communicating it. Shit, you might even be able to just say, hey, look, I realize that I'm being witty in this moment, but it's because I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z. Even just having that clear communication and just being honest and authentic and transparent can make all the difference in the world because that's you being vulnerable. And that vulnerability allows you to become more connected to your partner. So utilizing these two things, right? Becoming self-aware, understanding why you are doing what you're doing, taking note of it, right? Maybe you can be more objective with it. Anytime that you notice that you're doing this as a pattern, write it down. Take note of it. If you have a smartphone, maybe you do a quick voice recording, or maybe you write notes at the end of the day, recognizing your patterns throughout the day and start to break them down objectively. And then just communicate. Now, I know saying just communicate seems so easy, but communication is hard. It's super layered. There's so many different aspects to communicating. And again, if this is something that you struggle with, this is something that I help people with all the time. So if you feel like you need support in this, if you feel like you need some help really unpacking these things and working through them so that you can actually have a healthy relationship, I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to support you. Let's do the work together. And guys, I will warn you right now, do not allow yourself to wait until it's too late. If you recognize that there is something wrong in your relationship, if you recognize that there is a pattern of behavior about yourself that you do not like and it's affecting your partner in a negative way, don't wait. Do the work. Get the resources, find the tools. And if you're having difficulty finding those things, I'm more than happy to help you with that as well. You know, this is something that I work with men all the time. I have trainings around communication, around self-awareness, around unpacking shame and these perceptions of ourselves and stereotypes that have been created within the community. So let's do the work together and get you to your goal, which is having a happy and fulfilling relationship, because as I've said many, many times before, it is absolutely possible. You just have to be willing to do the work. If this is something that you relate to, if there's questions that you have, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure you're hitting that like and that subscribe button so that you can join the community and be informed whenever new content comes out. And again, just understand that this channel and this community has been created specifically for you. This is a safe environment. This is a no judgment environment, which is something that I feel has been missing within the community for quite some time, which is why I created this channel. So if you would like to work together, if you feel like you need a one-on-one coaching session, I will make it easy for you and provide a link in the description box down below, and it'll take you directly to the page so that you can book your session and we can start working through these issues today. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Hope you're staying happy and healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.